Hi guys, welcome to this week's video. Thank you again for joining me. Again, I really appreciate that you guys keep showing up and watching my stuff. Last week we talked about diets and we talked about what I mean when I use the word diet, and we also talked about ways in which we can get caught up with diets, how the diet industry sometimes tries to make things a little more complicated than they need to be, and I've been really working over the past few months on ways to try and share my stories and insights and where I really am right now with you, and also explaining, without sounding really arrogant, how shitty is the only word I can think of the diet industry can be. Now, there's so many different, again, like last week, diets, it's a massive topic, and I could probably, as I said last week, do millions of videos. Really, I want to touch on a couple of things. I want to touch on diet myth baggage. You may have seen me using this phrase, again, on social media in the last few days. Something that really hit me, because I know that we get very caught up in our stories, and this is not just in regards to weight loss, we get caught up in the stories that we tell ourselves, we get caught up in the ideas that are out there, other people's opinions, other people's stories about us, and we then start to just see our life in that way. We actually start to just play out that story. Now, you may be thinking, what the hell are you talking about? Now, what I mean for this is, I shared, and I can't remember where, but I used to think that I was pre-programmed to be fat. I used to think I was pre-programmed to be overweight. I used to think that when I failed on a diet, or when a diet failed me, I would quit or give up, or whatever it is, whatever phrase you want to use, I would stop. And I'd be like, oh, it's just the way it's going to be. I'm just going to be fat forever. I'm going to be the fat girl. I'm going to be the fat best friend. This is who I am. No. It's not who I am. The same way your actions do not define you, neither does your past. You don't have to let that define you, and also neither does your body shape or your body type. You know, I used to see myself as I was the fat friend. If I'm telling myself that my friends see me as their fat friend, then who am I going to be? I'm going to be the fat friend. I'm going to play that part in life because that's what I'm seeing. I'm going to go out there gaining weight and constantly giving up on diets and never finding what works for me, because that's the story I've told myself. That's the story I've created. So this is some deep stuff. It's a big deal. It's definitely important when it comes to nutrition and health and your happiness. And as I said, your stories are not just for weight loss. There are many stories I've told myself in the past. I've told myself the story over probably since I was 10, 11. I've told myself the story that I'm not smart enough, that I'm not clever enough, that I can't teach people anything. I'm slowly now, over the last couple of years, realizing that's bullshit. I can teach you guys. I can teach you guys how to lose fat. I can teach you women how to kind of, not add any more stress. There's certain things that we can do to reduce the amount of stress in our lives. And I can teach you that because I've done it and I've gone through it and I've worked with the progress, and that's the story I'm now telling myself. I'm telling myself that I am teaching you, I am helping you on a daily and weekly basis. So you can see, hopefully you can understand what I'm talking about the stories we tell ourselves when it comes to weight loss. So again, I told myself many years ago that I was the fat friend. I told myself that I was pre-programmed to be overweight, that I was never going to be able to be successful with weight loss, that I was just destined to be fat. And so that's the story I played out for myself. It was only when I started to go, I don't want to be the fat friend. I don't want to be overweight. I don't want to play that person. I want to be me. I want to be Melanie. And when I started to do that, I started to discover who I am. I started to suddenly realize all these things I wanted to or thought I should be when I was a teenager. And, when I was a teenager, I was, susceptible to other influences, as we all are. But I realized that none of that mattered. What I wanted to be was just who I am. And I'm not the skinniest person. I'm not the brightest person, but I'm me. and there's nobody else like me out there. And so I can now see that for what it means. So how you can kind of put this into action when it comes to weight loss is really about quitting what you're doing. I'm sorry, I'm going to put that out there right now. If you're doing the same thing, if you're holding on to that diet myth baggage and you are constantly repeating the same actions, they haven't worked. They're not working. Try something different. And I don't mean try another product or diet that is exactly the same but made by somebody else. That isn't doing something different. Little things. If you don't have breakfast, try having breakfast. If you skip lunch, try having some sort of lunch. If you spend the whole day drinking coffee and the whole evening drinking wine, maybe have some water. If you don't move, and like me a few years ago, hate the thought of even having to take the stairs, start moving. I'm not asking you to run a marathon. I'm not telling you to run a marathon. I would never do that. I don't want to run a marathon. What I'm saying is, we continue with the same actions. We get caught up with the myths and the stories that we tell ourselves when it comes to, and I'm talking about diets and weight loss right now, we get caught up with the same stories, the repetition, we repeat ourselves, we then fail and then blame ourselves and go back through the same process. Don't we? I have repeated the same diets, 2 or 3 in particular, and I've done them 2 or 3 times. And that means 9 times I have gone through the process of repeating the same actions, not having success, learning nothing about myself, and then beating myself up when it doesn't work. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. You have control over your choices, and that is your control, and you have complete access to a wealth of knowledge out there. But it's very, very confusing when people are coming at you with diet products and diet programs and things that are telling you that you have to do it this way. You don't have to do anything in any in particular way. You have to find what works for you. Doesn't that sound nice? Doesn't it sound nice to be able to go through life going, you know what, I like chocolate. I'm going to have a piece of chocolate because it keeps me from wanting to eat the entire cupboard. It gives me satisfaction that I've been able to control or been able to manage my diet each day, and I'm losing fat. And I'm learning more about my health. Isn't that what this should be about? It should be about our health and happiness. It should be about not even maintaining the health and happiness and not even creating it, because you know what, if I say that you're creating health and happiness, I'm telling you your lives aren't healthy and happy. My life has always been healthy and happy. I've never been miserable, but there have been certain times in my life where shit happens, stuff gets difficult, things are difficult, and it's in those times that when we know who we are and we know about ourselves and we know the story isn't the story that people tell us, isn't the story that defines us, and that goes for weight loss too. It's in those times that we were able to come out and go, that doesn't define me. This isn't who I am. Me not having success on this diet doesn't mean I'm a loser. Doesn't mean I'm a failure. Doesn't mean I'm pre-programmed to be fat forever. What it means is that diet didn't work. That diet wasn't what was right for me. And as I've said before, and you may see me saying this a lot because I think it's really, really great, every choice we make is not permanent. So you make a choice to get up in the morning and go for a walk. Okay, cool. Tomorrow you don't go for a walk. Don't feel bad about it. Don't beat yourself up. That choice is not permanent. The next day you go for a walk. You see what I mean? It's you make a choice, and whether in the moment you make that choice from a place of positivity or negativity, it's still a choice. And you can't change what happens in the past. My mum and I were talking about this the weekend, and we were saying, you know, it's so easy to kind of follow a diet. You can get into those things, and then, you know, you're put in a position, you're following it and you're being really careful, and then you suddenly get in this position where, I don't know, it's a barbecue or it's somebody's birthday and there's cake. And you, in impulse, you have the cake, and then you're eating it, and you're suddenly thinking, why am I eating this cake? Oh my God. And you just carry on eating it, and then you just beat yourself up. I've done that. I've done that so many times. The cake is done. I can't reverse the cake. I mean, I know there are ways in which you can, but I don't want to get into that. You You have to take that choice. You have to take that instant reaction or emotion. You have to take that and go, huh, I ate the cake. Why did I eat the cake? How do I feel after the cake? Why did I pick that? And I've said for a while that I haven't been journaling. I'm going to get back into it. I didn't have the time for it. And when I say I'm going to be journaling, I'm going to be tracking. I'm not tracking calories. I'm not tracking my macronutrients. I'm not going to be writing grams of food down. I'm really going to be writing what I'm eating and how I feel in the morning when I wake up, how I feel before I go to bed, how was that night's sleep. And that might sound like a lot of work. I'm not suggesting you all go out and do that. But this is where I'm at right now. And I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to share these insights with you, but I'm really excited to kind of work on this with you. So can you guys do me a favor and just tell me whether this information is kind of resonating, whether it makes sense? You know, do you have these stories that you've been telling yourself? I'd love to hear them, because this kind of stuff, I want to help you. And so if you've got these stories that you've been telling yourself and maybe you're just not quite sure, you want to talk it through, I can get on the phone with you. I can, via email, we can do it via Facebook Messenger, whichever way you want to do it. So let me know, either, comments or send me an email. It's melanie@melanienights.com. And yeah, hopefully this has been helpful, but I'll see you guys next week.